Good. Next, let's talk about the animation part of the scene. What we have here are actually some relatively simple animations. Let's take a look together. First, resize the lower window back to our timeline. So if we want to set up some animations, you need to briefly understand the principles of animation. The principle of animation is actually not particularly difficult. The difficulty is that we need to master its time rhythm. First, take a look at the timeline below. When we click the play button, the slider here will play forward. So if some objects are animated by themselves, it will create some movement over time. So the bottom represents time. The time scale here, we need to find out. We are outputting the animation. You can see it here. Our current animation increment rate is 24 frames per second. In other words, if we want to render it into animation, 24 images per rendering, it can form a 1-second animation. So if you want to compose a 10-second animation, we need to render 240 continuous pattern animations. Pictures, right? In this case, when synthesizing later, it can become a continuous animation. So essentially, it's just a static picture. So briefly, let me tell you some settings about animation. So first of all, here is the timeline. The default length of the timeline is 1 to 250 frames, but you can set this length yourself. Set an arbitrary range. Let's say I can make it 2,500 frames. It's also possible. Or 25 frames is fine. 25 frames. Then when it plays, just always loop between 25 frames. So our default is 250 frames. 1 to 250 frames. So it doesn't matter. Then we can use 250 frames. Our starting frame is the first frame. So here we start with this monkey head, as a simple understanding of the principle of our animation settings. For example, at what frame do we want to make a monkey head? Let's get it to 60 frames per second. Move from point A to point B. Right? For example, this is point A. This is point B. I just want to make an animation of displacement from point A to point B. How should it be achieved? First, we need to tell our system. The time is the beginning of the first frame. Then the position is at point A. Good. After we confirm these 2 points, we can choose this monkey head. Press the block key on your keyboard. We can insert a keyframe. There are many types here. Position, rotation, scaling. Zoom plus position plus rotation. There are many. Well, here we only deal with locations. So let's give it here. Record information about a location. In this case, there is a little yellow dot on the timeline. We can see this little yellow dot represents at current time. The location information of this monkey head is recorded. It's here. We press the N key. Can open its entry panel. So it represents our first frame. There are only so many positions for our monkey head. It has been recorded. Then our second requirement is, when the time comes to 60 frames, our monkey head will follow our X. Arrive at point B. We GX pull it to point B. Then we press the K key again. Tell this new location to our timeline. At 60 frames, it has a new position. In this case, we have set 2 key points. So under normal circumstances, we want an object to animate. You need to set more than 2 key pins. Have only 1 key pin. Normally, no animation will be generated. Of course, if you use some, what wave modifier? It will still have some jitter. So if you don't use those modifiers, usually it's just 2 time hands are needed. So let's play it now. We can see, according to this time, it will generate an animation. Very good. Then I want to add an effect now. That's where it starts from here. Also in the process of moving to point B, I also want it to have a rotation. For example, when it reaches the 60 frame position, it's facing this way. Gradually move towards this side. So how to achieve such effects? Of course, the approach is the same. On the timeline panel, let's click this little button on the left. You can open a general meeting. You can go down and save some. We can see it now. The recorded keyframe is its position XYZ. Of course, only X changes. Y and Z have not changed. Let's take a look. Time hand without change. Over here, it will have a yellow line filled in by. This means the position of Y and the position of Z. During this time, it is a static state. There is no such yellow line. It's the numbers that represent them that have changed. That is, the position of X has changed. So if we wanted to have a rotation effect, similarly we can come to the first stitch. Of course, it doesn't have to be the first shot. Let's come to 24 frames. Press K key. Let's re-rotate it. Then this time, we added keyframes for the rotation position. It increases at 24 frames. Note that what this adds is that its rotation angle has not changed. We can see it's all 0. Then we come to frame 60. What we want is for it to have an RZ90. That is, facing our right side. Then we go to K again. Record our rotation. In this case, we pay attention. It's between 24 frames per second and 60 frames per second. Completed 1. Spinning action. Then from 0 stitches to 24 stitches. There is no rotation action. We can play it. I didn't go here before turning around. Isn't it? This way it's done. One of ours. A simple animation setup. Of course the key pin is set. You can also select it by box. Press key on keyboard. Or you can just pull the mouse directly. To pull the position of the time hand. For example, I think it should start with 48 stitches. To produce rotation. That's the same. Let's pay attention. It only has a rotating action at the end. Isn't it? So, what about the whole animation? Basically, it's that simple. Very easy to get. What about the above? I'm talking about 2 key stitches. To make it generate some animations. Then by default, a key pin cannot be animated. But we can pass some modifiers. Let a key pin also animate. So after we understand its principle, next we can set up some animations in our scene. Let me first set up the animation of our moon here. Our moon. I hope it's just a random up and down motion. A moving animation. Just an animation of shaking up and down. So if you want it to randomly bounce up and down, we actually only need 1 key pin. It depends on what effect we want the entire animation to have. Then let me talk about it here. I will provide you with 2 ways to animate, to achieve the final result we want. That is our result is. Do you need to animate the entire scene? It's a cycle, seamless loop. The answer is if yes. You can't just let it go up and down randomly, right? Because our last 250 frames and the first frame, it should be almost the same location, right? If it's random, that means your 250 frames and the first frame. Maybe the location is different. In this case, there will be an adjustment when the 2 of them cycle. Then let me talk about it first. The first way to set up the moving moon is random. So if it's random up and down, it is also a movement in position. We can record its position by pressing the K key, so it now has a set of keyframes. What is recorded is the position on XYZ. Then we all know that if there is only 1 keyframe, it will not animate. So if you want it to be animated, we can take this timeline. Timeline switches to Curve Editor. We also expand it in the Curve Editor. You can see there are 3 positions of XYZ. In that timeline, we can give our animation keyframes plus some simple modifiers. For example, I want it to move up and down. So that means I can put it on top of its Z value, because the Z value controls the upper and lower. Above the Z value, add the previous modifier to it. Press the N key on your right. Open, we find the modifier. Choose your Z value. Open the modifier on the right. We are in the modifier. Add a wave to it. After adding Xiaobo, you will find our Z value. It's not a flat line anymore. Instead, it becomes a noise line. It is affected by modifiers. At this point, we can play the animation. Then there is no button to play animation here. What to do? We can press space on the keyboard. This way you can see our moon produce an up and down motion, although there is only 1 key pin. But this key pin is affected by our noise. It started shaking up and down. So you can simulate the shake on our lens like this. or the shaking of the car, the shaking of the plane, shaking of wheels. Everything is possible. Then we can set the zoom inside the photo wave. Make this curve a little more relaxed. This way our moon won't move up and down so fast. Very good. There is another strength below. We can increase the intensity, can make it shake more. Or the shaking amplitude is smaller. Right? More shaking. Or the shaking amplitude is smaller. So if this happens, we can modify the gas through the wave curve. Give us the objects in the scene. To add a random shake. So now it defaults to looping. We will find it's between the last frame 250 frames and the first frame. Since the value it ends with is different, you will find the moon over here. There will be a sudden displacement. So if in this case, we want to do the animation of the previous loop, it's not appropriate. Let's take a look. It's like this. It's not suitable because its left and right values are different. Right? Is different. Then there will be a limited range below. Even if we can pass some limited scope, you can set it to the value of left and right. Don't use one of our wave-making values. What does it mean? That is to say, I now enable the limited value. There are all zeros here. You'll find us making waves. It has lost its effect now. Lose its function. We pay attention to observation. Is it from the first frame to 250 frames? Its position is completely unchanged. So what I'm thinking now is, make it before and after frame 0. Just before and after the first frame. No waves now. Then there is. Then there was no wave generation in the next frame. This will achieve a result. That's where it rises and dies. They are all restored to their original positions. Then it won't jump. But these two positions will slow down its animation. We can try it. For example, if we use wave making, the start and death value is the first frame. The end value is 250 frames. In this case, it is fully applied. There will be a fade out and fade in value below. Let's say my fade in value is 5 frames. The fade out value is also 5 frames. In this case, it will be restored to its original position. Let's take a look. Can such an effect be achieved? Let's pay attention to see behind it. It's still possible, but a little fast. We change the initial hand to the hour hand. Make it a little slower. Then restore to this location. Okay, but it doesn't feel so uniform. We can make it scale straight. Stretch it a little more. Okay, not that jumpy, but you'll find it at the end of your hand. It seems that its movement stops at a certain point, right? It will stop. Wait a moment, then shake it again. So there is a branch here. If you want to make a scene loop animation, 250 frames, it is a continuous loop. Up, down, up, down, up, down. No change in speed. We don't need to use waves. Let me tell you another way. Now we have a keyframe. Right? Only in the first frame. A keyframe. So it doesn't look like there's any animation right now. So what's next for us? More keyframes. That is to say ourselves. Let it do a set of animations first. Then I let it continue to loop this animation. Do you understand? Just let it go up and down into an animation group. Then repeat within 250 frames. In this case, we can calculate it ourselves. The number of times we want to repeat. For example, our current end needle is 250 frames. If we take 50 frames as the number of a loop, then it can cycle 5 times. Then that's just right. Right? How to do it? Let me tell you something. Now is the first frame. We pull it to 50 frames. Then put all the key points on your first frame. Shift-D. Copy it to frame 50. In this case, your first frame and frame 50 is a still frame, because they get the same number, right? Yellow bars mean they haven't changed. Good. Next we come to frame 25. At frame 25, let's move the moon up a little. GZ moves up a bit. Good. Here, let's key the position of its changes. In this case, we will find, from the first stitch to the 25th stitch, it is up. So from 25 stitches to 50 stitches. It's back again. Because the 50th needle and the first needle. It's the same time hand. This way it forms a set of actions. To 50 stitches. We just need to make it. Just repeat it 5 times. Some classmates said, "Teacher, I understand. Do you want to make it like this?" Cycle copy, copy, copy. Copied 5 times. Of course you copy it like this. No problem. But we still have. More convenient way. Just when you're done. After such a set of animations. Let's still go back to the timeline. In the timeline we will find. Our X and Y directions have no animation. There is animation only in the Z direction. Did you see it? Z is responsible for height. Only it has an upward animation. Then we choose its Z value or modifier. But don't add anything this time. Stop adding Xiaobois. As you can see, there will be a loop above. You can just add a loop. Then it will keep looping. Let's play. Pay attention to its animation effect. The main thing is to look at the relationship between the 250th frame and the first frame. There's a little problem now. There is a little problem. It seems that it is not fully cycled. Let's pay attention. There is a shake. This should be the value I calculated that is problematic. There is something wrong with the calculated value. First frame to 250 frames. Its frame should be here. In other words, it shouldn't be the 50th frame here. I will adjust it directly in the curve panel. Right? We can move it 1 frame in the X direction. Note that if you look at me here to adjust, it will all be adjusted. Move 1 frame. In other words, let it come to 51 frames. Let's take a look at where we are now. Take a look. Effect. It's good now. Its loop is 51 frames, right? Because it has an overlapping frame, right? There will be an overlapping frame. That's frame 51 and frame 1. In fact, they overlap. So there should be one more of them. This 51 frame and the first frame. In fact, he is standing in the same position, isn't it? So good. It's fine now, right? So if you want to do some looping animations, just use this idea and do it. So now we've figured it out. 50 frames and 250 frames are repeated exactly 5 times. There are actually some in that scene. We can all use the same. Let it do loop animation. It's just that the speed is different. So you can do the math yourself. Some have to be repeated 4 times. Or repeat 3 times. Or 2 times. You can do the math yourself. Or directly in the curve. You can slowly fine-tune it. You can also ask it to repeat 1, 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times. It's like this. After understanding this information, it's convenient for us here. Give some animation to other objects. Then let's do the animation on the tree. What about the animation of leaves? In fact, it is an animation that shakes from side to side. For example, we can make it in the X or Y direction. To make a shaking animation, same below. But if it shakes, I don't want it to rotate on its current axis. We'd better put the axis above it. Let's set it up. Let's come to our test chart. Then you can enable the axis. That is, origin editing. It has a shortcut key. Its shortcut key is Ctrl plus period. That's the button to the left of the question mark. It's a period, right? Okay. So in this way we can pass Control period. Switch our pivot editor. Then GZ, let's make it go up a little bit. The one below also has GZ slightly upward. Further down, it is also GZ up. Okay, after editing. Be careful to see it out. Close. Now let's shake it. It is a structure like this. Be careful not to sway too much. If it shakes too much, it will mix with the one below. That number is interspersed. Did you see it? So it should be. Very, very slight shaking. Just have an animation. Or we will use the following. Zoom in a little bit. Right? To prevent us from shaking. It has a somewhat worn-out feel. Better. Are you trying not to wear it? Then we can do it here. An animation of it shaking. Right? If it shakes, We can do shaking in the X and Y directions. These two directions. You can give it a shaking effect. Of course, we can also directly, just from the angle of our camera, let it shake. Actually, it's also X and Y. There is a value in both directions, right? Everything is possible. Let's go back to the timeline again. If you think it would be troublesome to adjust it over and over again, we can detach another window from the right side. We can turn it into a curve editor. This is the timeline below. Because we only need a small, flat timeline. Just be able to see the keyframes. The curve above we use to animate its loop. Okay, let's go back to the first frame. It's shaking. We take a look. Let's take a look at the speed. Also 50 frames. We can try it. Shake left and right. So its initial position. Let's move it a little to the left first. Okay, initial position. Let's move it a little to the left. Press the K key and we will make a rotation animation. Then we pull the time frame to frame 51. Then let it sway slightly to the right. Sorry, should be 25 frames. Shake to the right. Press K to rotate. Then 51 frames. We need to copy the first frame too. 51 frames. Let's pull the first stitch to 51 stitches. So now they have formed a cycle. Ring. One cycle. Okay, then let's go to its curve. Then we have to pay attention to a problem. That's when we go spinning. What values does it affect? At present, it seems that we are here. All three values of X, Y, Z are affected, right? All affected. That doesn't matter. If it affects all, you select all three values together. Find the modifier on the right. Then we add the previous one to it. Loop modifier. In this case, we will simultaneously. XYZ has been added. We can see the effect. Focus on watching 50 frames. A transition change from frame 250 to the first frame. Now it's full circle. There is no feeling of interruption. Not bad, but I think it shakes a little too much. The amplitude of the left and right shaking will be a bit large, so I hope it's a little smaller. Even smaller, we can select the curve here. Flatten the distance difference between it and the top. In the curves panel, the up and down axis is the y-axis. The left and right axis are the x-axis. We can SY. Press them towards the middle. Let's take a look again. The range of its shaking will be very small. If you press it into a straight line, that means it's still. Let's press it again. SY. Let's press it a little more. Just let it sway very slightly. Okay, so what if this is the case? Our top layer of animation has been completed. Then choose the second layer. The approach is the same. Let's let it turn slightly to the left. The K key records a rotation. Then we set the time frame directly to frame 51. Copy our keyframes. Then set a 25 frame. Let's turn it a little bit this way. Press the K key to set a rotation. Okay, now let's play the animation again. Now it also has an animation, right? Its Z value position and the position of the next two values. Far away. Relatively tight. Good. Now they have animations too. We also select all its XYZ. Give the previous loop. Let's take a look again. The effect is very good. But now we also have a problem. Although it loops. But we will find. Its action frequency is the same as above. In other words, it moves to the left at the same time as the top. Right at the same time. Left at the same time. right at the same time. Looks a little too synchronized. We want its frequency to be slightly interspersed. This is also very simple, since we set up the loop. So you can take the key stitches we've already done. Go move a bit. Note that this is how you move horizontally on the timeline. Then you will find that it is no longer as synchronized, but still looping. Because it's starting stitch and ending stitch, it's always the right match. Did you see it? It doesn't have any changes, but it will produce some circular effects. We are still SJ. Let's press it a little bit. If I masturbate now, you see it will. It will close the distance between them. So we can do it here. Try using respective.sy. I hope. Still not okay. Then let's go one by one. I wish it shook a little less. Its J value above we gave it SJ 0.5. SY 0.5 is wrong. Then the two values below are also the same. You can set it one by one. SY 0.5. Then there is the S direction. Let me take a look. SY 0.5. Let it shake a little less. You can stagger it a little further in terms of time. Now they are not completely in sync. Of course, the third leaf. The method is exactly the same, right? Let's move it a little to the left first. Press K key to record rotation. Then set our current time frame, 51 frames. Then take our current time point, CVD copied over. Come to frame 25. Let's move it a little bit to the right. Press the K key to record a keyframe. In that case, it's animated. We're going to hold down the Control key. Add mouse wheel. All are pressed. We can zoom the screen, because sometimes you may only be able to see. Then after we select it, add a loop animation. Let's take a look at its effect. You will find the effect now is quite good, but its synchronization rate is exactly the same as the first one. Did you see it? Kind of feels like it's the same as first. The effect at the top. What seems to be? It seems to be in a relatively static state. So let's pull the key points below it over here. Okay. Right? Let it go 1, 2, 3 at a completely different speed. But it can still be looped back. The effect is very good now. We can keep it playing forever. Save our file. When my moon is at the top, it's a bit beyond the picture, so I want its Z value to be. Its height drops slightly. We can go to our curves panel. Press Control key. Press and hold your mouse wheel again. Left and right is the left side of the horizontal direction. Up and down are of course the vertical left. Let's move the height of its Z value slightly downward. Directly down here. Just GY. That is to say, when it shakes up and down, don't go beyond our picture. A little further down. Okay, now in our scene. The animation part we set up is very good. So if you want to achieve an entire scene, it's all a cyclical state. How other objects are set up. That's it too. We can all do this in this way. Let it achieve a feeling of a cycle. Very good. Okay, so let's stop here first. Let's continue with the rest of the animation in the next lesson.